Hello, welcome to Living and Learning. I'm Allison Kinnear, and this is a time when 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I jump onto Facebook Live and talk about living and talk about learning. So today we're still in the month of June, and all month long I'm talking about boundaries. And today we're kind of continuing on that path, talking about boundaries and connection. I wanted to talk about boundaries and connection because one of the biggest problems that I know arise for me when it comes to setting boundaries is the fear that the boundary is going to drive disconnection. That by letting someone know that something's not okay with me is going to put a wedge in our relationship somehow. That maybe, for me, I know I get a lot of fear that people will leave, they will walk away, they won't want to be in a relationship with me in whatever way that looks. And so setting boundaries, what can often happen is we get this fear that we will be more disconnected if I say, hey, what you're doing is not okay with me. And what's interesting is that my experience of setting boundaries is very different from my fear, as is usually the case. Sometimes the boundary is with the intention to actually create more disconnect. I mean, sometimes we have to set a boundary and say, I don't think this relationship is working, and so I think it's time for us to part. So sometimes boundaries is a conscious way of disconnecting from one another. And I think what is easily overlooked is the fact that boundaries can actually build stronger connections. Boundaries can actually build intimacy. And that's something that I know for me, I never really considered when I was first starting to set some boundaries. But as we've been talking about all month long, is when we set boundaries, what it does is it relieves us from our resentment. It relieves us from having all these negative feelings, these assumptions that we make about each other. When we don't have those boundaries, it's really easy to be in that resentment space. And when we can communicate our boundaries with other people, then suddenly nobody is walking on eggshells trying not to offend somebody. When we can set boundaries, we also have it so that we're not bringing up all this old stuff. You know, it decreases the likelihood of us engaging in passive aggressive behavior. So when we have our boundaries and when we can clearly communicate around what's okay with us, what's not okay, and to hear from the other person what's okay with them and what's not okay, it actually can bring us closer together because we're not making assumptions and we're also not walking on eggshells and hiding who we really are and what we really think and what we really feel. And we're also not being in resentment, which is, talk about a wedge in a relationship. Resentment is a wedge. Hello, Allie. Hello, Paulina. Yes, thank you, beautiful, both of you. So where I want to go with this is to think about the possibilities that having boundaries can actually deepen your relationships, can actually deepen your connection. I had a friend of mine came over. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and she came over yesterday, and we were talking about how her relationship with her family, she's had to do her work over time and set some boundaries around what's okay and what's not okay in terms of comments that are made, in terms of behaviors that are present in her family. And I asked, how are things going? And she said, you know, it's actually been really nice because because we know what's okay and what's not okay, we're actually able to do so many more things together. She was talking about all these wonderful activities that she and her family were doing. And part of it was because they weren't dreading being in the environment with each other. Oh, there's so many people popping on. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Griffin. Hello, Erica. Yay. Glad you all can make it. So really, setting boundaries can really free you up to have more intimate exchanges. I'll give you a personal story. In my family, as is I'm sure the case in many families, talking about politics is a sensitive subject. And I don't really see eye to eye with some of my family members when we come at it from a political point of view. And we've gotten into some really heated exchanges, really heated debates about politics that has really driven some wedges, and we both leave kind of frustrated and agitated, and we deeply love each other, and at the same time it's just like nothing's going well. And I've been able to have conversations with my family members about that dynamic, and we kind of agreed to take a break from talking about politics. That my one family member was saying, I don't like arguing with you. I don't like that our time together is an argument. I want for our time together to be about connecting. And so I had to really recognize, like, oh yeah, I can get into that argumentative state. And it's not to say we're not addressing some of the political disagreements, but it's just like, it was very clear that she was like, I don't want to engage with you like this. And I was okay with that. I was like, okay, I hear that as a boundary of yours that I will respect, even though I don't really like it sometimes, but I will respect it. And we've been able to kind of connect on different things, connect on different levels. And what's interesting is I just recently had a conversation where we were able to talk about gun policy, of all things, talk about one of the most politically divisive things. And we were able to really come eye to eye on some things. We were able to share and talk about such a politically triggering topic, but to talk about things and to have a really respectful conversation about it. And it was one of those examples of, yes, you can set boundaries and say, I'm not willing to get into political arguments with you. And over time, we're able to sometimes, occasionally, get into a conversation where we can have political dialogue with each other. That's still very real, and we're still really close. So I just want to put out the possibility, because I've found it to be true every time that I have set a boundary where I'm saying, I really am invested in this relationship, but there is a part of this relationship that is not working. That we've been able to actually build more bridges and become more intimate with each other rather than less. So I leave you with that to offer up the possibilities that boundaries can actually build more connections than take them apart. Hello, Amanda. Hello, Kayla. And yes, so mature to recognize it. Absolutely. Part of setting boundaries is we have to become aware of, what am I dreading about this interaction? What am I like, oh, I feel like I'm going to have to be walking on eggshells. What is that? For us to get curious about it so we can really identify what's the thing underneath it that maybe we need to set some boundaries around, some parameters around. Hello, Charlene. So I leave you with that. Experiment with that. If you want to think about people in your family or in your life that if you want to think about, sorry, I'm totally laughing, Danielle. I can't focus because your nail polish is popping. It is popping. Woo, thank you. If you want to think about a relationship in your life that you maybe dread, that you have some resistance to really get curious about it and go, what is this thing? What am I dreading exactly? And see if there's an opportunity to set a boundary there. Because my guess is once you do, it will be a relief to all people involved. And it can actually help build a stronger connection, stronger intimacy than otherwise. Thank you so much, Charlene. I'm glad you love Wednesday afternoons. I love them too. I wish you all a wonderful week of living and learning. For those of you in Maple Valley, Washington area, I am scheduling a talk on having difficult conversations. It fits so beautifully with this thing around boundaries. It'll be mostly geared towards the workplace, but really having difficult conversations and leading with compassionate honesty is something that we can do at work, and we can also do it in our personal lives. So I will share some of that information in the link below. It will be a free talk at the Maple Valley Library this Sunday at 1:30 p.m. I hope to do it again in the Georgetown area at Seattle Life Coach Training will be the location. I have not secured all of that yet, so I'll let you know when that's coming up. But if you're able to make it down to Maple Valley, I would love to have you. It'll be a free talk on having difficult conversations, and I hope to see you then. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.